When the ice began moving in late May, there was a collective community sigh, a surge of energy releasing us from the long winter. I drove to various points along the riverbank along with nearly everyone else in town. Most years, it is a time of celebration, of barbecuing on the bank and visiting with old friends, speculating on this year's breakup. Every year, I quietly hope for an exciting breakup, but not too exciting. When ice pushed up on the road in Old Town, we were mildly amused. When the water began to spill its banks and spread to low-lying areas, we were concerned for the few homes and families threatened by water. One of the two roads to the airport washed out, then the other, separating much of the community from the airport. The light-hearted spirit of breakup turned serious. When the water began filling the low area that is our dog yard, it was coming from 3 directions. We moved 12 dogs to the ridge next to our house, thinking that it couldn't get any higher. But the water continued to rise. When they called for the first evacuation, my 13-year-old daughter, Kiana, wanted to leave with her auntie. I didn't want her to go. The unknown of the evacuation seemed riskier than the flooding around our house. But I let her go, to help her feel safe. I put my faith in others. I prayed that she would be safe. I knew that everything would be okay. My 15-year-old son Caleb, my husband John, and I took turns on flood watch throughout the night as the water sat below the floor of the house. My son played his guitar, a soothing serenade for me, but no one got much sleep that night. The water started to drop. We celebrated. Then there was a surge and the water rose. 1 foot in the house, then 2. We had moved as much as we could to the 2nd floor. The rest became a strange soup of clutter. A new sound came. Yukon River ice pushing up the slough. We could see house-sized pieces of ice knocking over 60-foot trees. Chunks of ice pushed through our yard. We scouted an escape route, not knowing what might be next. The ice began to thin. A Black Hawk helicopter hovered over our heads. A C-130 flew over, signaling the evacuation of most of my community. A friend came by in a boat. I had the feeling that it was time for Caleb to evacuate. The unknown of what was happening around me now seemed more dangerous than the unknown of the evacuation. I hid my fear and asked if he wanted to fly in a C-130. He asked if we'd be okay without him. I assured him we'd be fine. I again watched my child leave, and I prayed that he would be safe. Despite my fear, I maintained a sense that everything would be okay. The water remained high for another day. It was beautifully hot and sunny. The birch trees budded as we sat on the boat, eating MREs and reflecting on what was happening. Somewhere in my life, I learned to believe, to have faith that everything would be okay. The universe is unfolding exactly as it should. The universe, like the river, is constantly changing, smoothing and shaping, creating and destroying, an unstoppable force, touching us all at all times. Stories told by the elders are rich with teachings of acceptance and resilience. Traditional people have always known how precarious life is, how quickly things can change, and how dependent we are on each other and the earth. Reverence and gratitude deepen our faith. There are times when our faith will be challenged. Mother Nature is a powerful teacher, and there was no doubt she spoke to me in ways that she never did before. I am humbled by her power. What will I learn from this? When the water receded, we are left with a mess. My home, my community, my workplace, it all has to be rebuilt. But it's all just stuff. It's just work, just like any other day. I am reminded of how blessed I am. I am reminded that I mustn't cling too tightly to anything except my faith.